I fixed her broken car. Then realized she was supposed to be my blind date. Rain pounded against the windshield as Marcus drove home from another exhausting shift at the garage. 3 years as head mechanic had given him calloused hands and a guarded heart. The dating apps on his phone remained untouched for months, his last relationship having crumbled under the weight of broken promises. His sister Ellie's persistent attempts to set him up on blind dates had become something of a running joke between them. Tonight was supposed to be date number 5, but Marcus had texted to cancel after his shift ran long. Some poor woman named Olivia was probably sitting alone at Rosetta's Italian right now, checking her watch and wondering if she'd been stood up. Another relationship over before it began. The rain intensified as Marcus spotted a silver Honda pulled over on the shoulder, hazard lights blinking desperately in the growing darkness. A slender figure in a blue dress huddled beneath an umbrella, peering hopelessly into the engine compartment. His mechanic's instinct kicked in before his brain could protest. He was tired, he was hungry, but he couldn't drive past someone stranded in this weather. Marcus pulled his truck behind her car and grabbed his emergency toolbox from the passenger seat. "Having car trouble?" he called out, approaching with his jacket pulled over his head against the downpour. The woman turned, and for a moment, Marcus forgot about the rain. She had warm brown eyes that crinkled at the corners when she offered a grateful smile, her dark hair falling in damp curls around her face. She was beautiful in an unassuming way, like a favorite song you never tire of hearing. "My car just died," she explained, her voice carrying a hint of frustration beneath its melodic tone. "I was on my way to meet someone, and now I'm going to be impossibly late. I've called 3 tow companies, but they're all backed up because of the storm." She gestured helplessly at the open hood. "I know nothing about cars." "Well, you're in luck," Marcus said, setting down his toolbox. "I'm a mechanic. Mind if I take a look?" The relief that washed over her face made something stir inside him, something he thought had long since gone dormant. Her name was Olivia Chen, he learned as he examined her engine. She was an elementary school music teacher who'd recently moved to town after a tough breakup in Chicago. "Change is good," she said with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "At least that's what I keep telling myself." Marcus nodded, understanding all too well the hollow comfort of that particular lie. The problem was a loose connection in her alternator, easily fixed with the tools he had on hand. As rain dripped from his forehead, Marcus found himself sharing more with this stranger than he had with anyone in months. Something about her attentive gaze and genuine questions broke through his carefully constructed walls. He told her about his love of classic cars, his dream of owning his own garage someday, even mentioned his sister's relentless matchmaking attempts. "I was actually supposed to meet a blind date tonight," Olivia admitted with a self-conscious laugh. "Some guy my new coworker knows. But I'm so late now, he's probably given up and gone home." She checked her phone, sighing at the unanswered texts. Marcus wiped his hands on a rag and closed the hood. "Try starting it now." The engine purred to life, and Olivia's delighted expression warmed him more than any cup of coffee could have. "Good as new," he said, gathering his tools. "You should be able to make it to your date, if you still want to go." Olivia hesitated, glancing at her watch. "I think that ship has sailed. But thank you for this. You're my hero tonight." She reached into her purse. "Please, let me pay you something." Marcus waved her off. "Just helping out." Anyone would have done the same. It wasn't true, but it felt like the right thing to say. "Not anyone," she insisted, her eyes meeting his with an intensity that made his heart stumble. "Most people would have driven right past." There was a beat of silence between them, filled only by the drumming of rain on metal. "Can I at least buy you a coffee sometime? As a thank you?" Before Marcus could answer, his phone buzzed. Ellie, probably checking to see if he'd changed his mind about the blind date. He silenced it without looking. "Coffee would be nice," he said, surprised by how much he meant it. They exchanged numbers, and Marcus watched as Olivia drove away, her taillights disappearing into the rainy night. Only when he was back in his truck did he check his phone. 5 missed calls and a string of increasingly frantic texts from his sister. "Where are you?" "Olivia's waiting at Rosetta's. She says she's running late but still coming." "Marcus, please tell me you didn't bail completely." "She's driving there now. Black hair, blue dress. Don't mess this up." Marcus stared at his phone in disbelief, the realization hitting him like a physical blow. Olivia. Black hair. Blue dress. The woman whose car he'd just fixed was his blind date. The universe, it seemed, had a perverse sense of humor. Days passed, and Marcus couldn't bring himself to text Olivia. How could he explain that he was the jerk who'd stood her up? Each time he drafted a message, shame stopped him from hitting send. Meanwhile, Ellie was relentless. "She seemed really nice, Marcus. She waited almost an hour before leaving. At least apologize." A week later, Marcus was underneath a Chevy Impala when his coworker nudged his foot. "Someone here to see you." Rolling out from under the car, he froze. Olivia stood in the garage bay, looking somehow both out of place and perfectly at home among the tools and engine parts. She wore jeans and a simple t-shirt, her hair pulled back in a ponytail, but she still took his breath away. "You're a hard man to track down, Marcus Sullivan," she said, a small smile playing at her lips. "Your sister told me where you work." Marcus stood slowly, wiping grease from his hands. "Olivia, I can explain. You're him, aren't you? The blind date who never showed." There was no anger in her voice, just quiet certainty. "Ellie showed me your picture yesterday when I met her for coffee. Said her brother was an idiot but a good guy deep down." Shame burned hot in Marcus's chest. "I'm sorry. I got caught up at work and cancelled, but then you found me on the side of the road," she finished. "And didn't recognize my name because you'd already put the date out of your mind." "That's not true," Marcus protested. I've been burned before. Dating hasn't exactly been kind to me." Olivia crossed her arms, studying him with those perceptive brown eyes. "Seems to me the universe went to a lot of trouble to make sure we met anyway. Doesn't that make you curious?" The question hung between them, full of possibility. Marcus thought of how easy it had been to talk to her in the rain, how her smile had lit something inside him he thought was extinguished. "Very curious," he admitted finally. "Good," she said, her expression softening. "Because I still owe you that coffee." Their first official date lasted 5 hours. Coffee turned into lunch, which turned into a walk through the park, which somehow became dinner at a tiny Thai restaurant where they sat talking until the owner politely informed them they were closing. Olivia was nothing like Marcus expected and everything he didn't know he needed. She was passionate about music, had a wicked sense of humor, and listened like every word he said mattered. For the first time in years, Marcus felt the protective walls around his heart beginning to crumble. But real life isn't a fairy tale, and their budding relationship faced its share of challenges. Olivia's ex from Chicago reappeared, claiming he'd made a terrible mistake and wanted her back. Marcus's garage faced financial troubles when the building owner decided to sell. Trust issues from past relationships surfaced at the worst possible moments, leading to arguments that left both of them questioning whether they were right for each other. The breaking point came 3 months in, when Olivia was offered a prestigious position at a music conservatory back in Chicago. The night she told him, they had their worst fight yet. "You're just looking for an excuse to leave," Marcus accused, old insecurities bubbling to the surface. "Everyone always does." "That's not fair," Olivia shot back, tears in her eyes. "I'm asking you what you want, Marcus. I'm asking if we have something worth fighting for." He couldn't answer her then, the fear of loss choking the words in his throat. Olivia left his apartment that night with a quiet, "Call me when you figure it out." 3 days passed in miserable silence. Marcus threw himself into work, ignoring his sister's concerned texts and the hollow ache in his chest that grew with each passing hour. It was Ellie who finally forced him to confront the truth. She stormed into the garage on the third day, marched straight up to him and said, "Remember that night in the rain when you fixed Olivia's car? You told me it was the first time in years you felt like yourself again. Are you really going to throw that away because you're scared?" Her words struck like lightning, illuminating what he'd been too afraid to see. He loved Olivia. Not the idea of her, but the real her, stubborn arguments and beautiful contradictions included. And he was about to lose her because he couldn't get out of his own way. The drive to Olivia's apartment was the longest 20 minutes of his life. Each red light felt like an eternity as he rehearsed what to say, how to explain that his fear of losing her had nearly caused him to push her away. When she opened her door, the sight of packed boxes behind her sent panic coursing through him. "You're leaving," he said, his carefully prepared speech evaporating. "My flight's tomorrow morning," she confirmed, her expression guarded. "I tried calling you." "I know. I'm sorry. Marcus took a deep breath. "I've been afraid. Not of you leaving, but of what it means that I care so much whether you stay or go. When you told me about Chicago, all I could think was that I was going to lose you, and it terrified me because I love you, Olivia." The words hung in the air between them, honest and raw. Olivia's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't speak. "I don't want to hold you back," Marcus continued, his heart pounding. "If this opportunity is what you want, I'll support you. We can try long distance, or I could look for work in Chicago, or—" "I turned it down," Olivia interrupted. "The position in Chicago. I called them yesterday." Marcus stared at her, uncomprehending. "But why?" "Because sometimes opportunity doesn't look like a job offer," she said softly. "Sometimes it looks like a broken-down car and a stranger with a toolbox who changes everything." She stepped forward, taking his hands in hers. "I love you too, Marcus. I was just waiting for you to figure out if you were brave enough to love me back." Relief and joy flooded through him as he pulled her into his arms, holding her like he'd never let go. "I'm not good at brave," he whispered against her hair. "But I'm willing to learn." 1 year later, Marcus and Olivia stood in the newly renovated garage that now bore both their names. With a small business loan and Olivia's savings, they'd purchased the building when it went up for sale. Marcus handled the repairs while Olivia managed the books and taught piano lessons in the converted office space upstairs. It wasn't always easy, they still argued, still struggled with old wounds and fears, but each day they chose each other, chose to be brave together. On the anniversary of their unusual first meeting, Marcus took Olivia back to the spot on the highway where her car had broken down. The rain was gentler this time, a soft spring shower rather than the downpour of the previous year. He got down on one knee in the wet grass, holding out a ring fashioned from a small piece of her alternator, set with a diamond that had been his grandmother's. "Some people spend their whole lives looking for their perfect match," he said, his voice steady despite his thundering heart. "I got lucky. The universe broke your car just when I needed to find you. Will you marry me, Olivia?" Her yes was immediate, her kiss tasting of rain and promise and all the tomorrows stretching before them. As they drove home, fingers intertwined over the center console, Marcus thought about how a single moment, a broken car, a rainy night, a decision to stop and help, had changed the entire trajectory of his life. So if you're watching this and waiting for your own sign, remember that love doesn't always arrive when or how you expect it. Sometimes it shows up in a broken-down Honda on a rainy night. Sometimes the journey from heartbreak to happiness takes unexpected detours. But if there's one thing Marcus and Olivia's story teaches us, it's that the most beautiful destinations are often found on unplanned routes. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to see more tales of unexpected love and second chances. Your support helps us continue sharing stories that remind us all that even in our most lonely moments, connection might be just around the corner, waiting in the most unexpected places.